So this is now part two of the video, and there's a very famous book called She Comes First. It's a good book for men and I guess for women, and it kind of just teaches about sex and how to stimulate women and a bit of anatomy lessons, a bit of anatomy lessons on female genitalia and how women can achieve multiple orgasms and how to stimulate them the right way. That is actually probably one of the few books that I would say people in my high school. I went to high school in Nairobi, Kenya. That's one of the few books I would say that they liked, like more than, people who don't normally read books. They're not normally bookworms, but that's one I know that they liked. So, in case you're a man or maybe a lesbian, or you just basically plan on stimulating a female sexually, yeah, it's a good book. Now, my second favorite book of all time, literally of all time, is Convict Conditioning. And there's Convict Conditioning 1 and 2. Both of them, get both of them. Very, very, very good book. It's about calisthenics and strength training, and it teaches you progressively how to do one arm push ups, one arm pull ups, handstand push ups, one legged squats, standing bridges. There were six exercises. I can't remember the last one. Yeah, but that's, oh yeah, and also, I guess, hanging leg raises. I guess that's the only one I actually reached step 10 on. So it's a very, very progressive book and very, very amazing because most tutorials on fitness on YouTube are terrible. And here's the thing with fitness, the problem is, you see, as human beings, most people gravitate towards professions that they're good at, right? So if you're good at chemistry, you become a chemist. If you're good at biology, you become a doctor, right? So people who are good at fitness naturally gravitate towards fitness careers, right? But that therein lies the problem because as a fitness coach, you're trying to teach people who aren't good at fitness how to become fit. So the problem is because naturally these people have better muscles than we do, and the muscles respond faster to exercise, they're able to skip a lot more of the progressions than we are. So a lot of the tutorials, they skip many, many stages, right? Like I've seen a tutorial for handstand push-ups where they literally tell you, yeah, just start with a handstand. And I'm like, whoa, that is like step five, right? That's like step five when it comes to convict conditioning. So I feel convict conditioning really breaks it down for the average Joe. Like if you're unfit, you've never exercised a day in your life. Really, really amazing book. And calisthenic benefits many, right? You get to explore your own body, using your body in different positions in order to get stronger, right? And convict conditioning too mainly talks about how to achieve the human flag, as well as some forearm exercises you can do hanging with a towel. So calisthenics is cheap, you know. You don't need a gym. Literally, you only need access to a monkey bar for the pull-ups and the human flag. But the rest of the exercises you can do at home. And it's easier to build discipline because I had started working out in high school, but then I heard about convict conditioning. So it was easy to set a program where you do a different exercise every day. So you're exercising every day, but you're targeting different muscles. So, like maybe Monday, you're doing push ups, Tuesday, you're doing legs, Wednesday you're doing core, Thursday you're doing back, and Friday you're doing calves. So in a way, you never get tired because each muscle group is getting a week of rest, but you're exercising every day, right? Very amazing books. I highly recommend you just go to either Amazon or your favorite online bookstore and you at least check what the table of contents is or some scans or see the promotional material. It is very good, and I think you might find one or two tutorials on YouTube of how to do some of the exercises. And there's actually a video series for convict conditioning. Now, the only downside of these the books is two, I think, is one, I think he was wrong about nutrition. He just said, oh, if you drink water, you'll be fine because muscle is 8% water. But that's a lie. Like you really need to be eating in a caloric surplus and having 150 to 200 grams of protein. And that's protein, not meat, protein, in order to successfully build muscle, right? And some of the progressions are pretty steep. Like for the handstand push-ups, because the end result is you're supposed to be able to do a one-arm handstand push-up. But I think for handstand push-ups, ideally you'd want a body fat percentage of 10 to 13%, and you'd want to have been eating a caloric surplus while doing these other easier exercises, because if you don't, then you're gonna just plateau when you attempt to inch from the top going down towards doing the handstand push-ups. Like I guarantee you will not go beyond halfway unless you eat well. I also think a better way to do it would have just been to go to the gym and doing like I don't know if you call it the shoulder press or military press. Basically, you're standing and you just, or sitting and you push the barbell on top of you, straight up, straight down. I think it's just easier to progressively do that until you can push your own body weight, because that's the biggest limitation of calisthenics, is that your body weight is fixed, so it stagnates your progression if your body weight is too heavy for certain exercises, like with the one pistol squats, so one-legged squats. One, you need a lot of flexibility for that. Two, the progression is too steep between step 9 and step 10. So I really would recommend just doing either squats in the gym or leg extensions in the gym to build your quads before attempting to do it, and getting a bit of forward flexibility as well. Convict conditioning 2 actually does mention the quote unquote the only three stretches you will need, which is the L sit, there's another one I can't really describe what it's called, and what was the last one? I don't know if the last one was just the regular bridge, but it's very unique because I would maybe add two more stretches to it, and I would say if you do those five stretches, you're effectively stretching all the muscles in your body. So it's pretty efficient and pretty effective. And he talks about tension flexibility, that rather than just doing a static stretch where muscles are not being engaged, you do a tension stretch. So if you've seen an L sit, basically you sit on the ground and maintain an L position with your trunk and your legs, and you push yourself off the ground with your arms beneath your bum. That's an L sit. And so basically, you're maintaining tension in the sense that your abs are being engaged, your hips are being engaged, your quads are being engaged, but you're stretching your anterior chain, you're stretching your back, your hamstrings, and your quad. So, tension flexibility was a very interesting concept. So, long story short, I mean, I do plan on making fitness videos later. But long story short, I think it's good. Both of the books are good in principle. You just need to add on top of it going to the gym. So just to supplement your training and to fill in the gaps between those steep progression curves. But other than that, it's a really, really good book, especially because the people who hate working out, hate going to the gym. But if you're working out at home, you don't need any uniform. You just need your boxers and a t-shirt, and you can do push-ups at home or squats at home or sit-ups at home, leg raises, like leg raises at home, Jane Fonda's, I think they call them that. So it's easy to build that discipline. So if you have problem building discipline to consistently go to the gym, I can't recommend this book enough, because it's the one that made me decide when I was young, again 16, that I would actually devote a section of my life towards fitness, regardless of what I was doing with my life. Uh, I'm no longer religious, but in church they kind of talked like about this circle of different areas of your life, like relationships, family, work. Can't remember what the rest were, but essentially for me, I cut out a new chunk and dedicated it to fitness. So even if I was going to pursue entrepreneurship, which I plan on doing, that these entrepreneurs who work night and day, 80-hour work weeks, don't go to the gym. To me, there is no point of going to the becoming a billionaire if you look like crap. No offense, right? Like, I'd rather be worth 100 million and have an amazing body, like, who's someone who's really fit? Is it Chris Evans? Yeah, like, I'd rather be worth 100 million and have Chris Evans' body than be worth a billion and look like a blob, like really out of shape, right? Something that I'm curious about, because you have a lot of rich people who don't take care of their bodies. Elon Musk is getting a bit pudgy. He's old, fair enough, but he's getting a bit pudgy. Bill Gates never went to the gym. I think Mark Zuckerberg actually does go to the gym a bit. He does look like he goes a bit. But ideally for me, I would factor it in. Like, fitness is an important part of my life, and health is wealth. And I think more people should go to the gym. More people should also learn martial arts, or at least do some kind of sport. Like, sport is important. I never really liked team sports growing up, but sport in general is important. So next is this book called Please Understand Me 2 by David Kersey. So if you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs type indicator, if you're not, it's a book on personality types. Uh, Again, this book is probably also in my top 5, if not my top 10. Very, very amazing book. Uh, it basically it covers like the Myers-Briggs theory. So if you don't know what it is, just Google MBTI test and do the test. There's some free websites, and then you can Google the type that you get. So there's 16 types, and you get 4-letter, is it denomination, or anyway, a 4-letter code that describes the, let's call it a denomination, that describes the personality. So you can just Google it, like maybe INTJ description. I'm not INTJ, I'm INTP. You can get INTJ description, and you can read the different websites that show you what an INTJ is like. There's a good website called Personality Page that shows you the descriptions. But the David Kersey book takes it a step further, because what he's trying to say is, on top of there being 16 personality types, he breaks each of them into 4 temperaments. So it shows you like the other 3 personalities that you're closest to. So if like you're an INTP, it's basically saying the N and the T are what really defines you. Like that is your most defining characteristic. So it would be very long if I talk about it, but if you want to know about personality, as I said, step one, Google MBTI. Step two, do the test. Step three, read the description. Step four, read the book, and it will delve even further. If you are familiar with MBTI, then this is the book you need to understand temperament, because people make horrible typing mistakes when it comes to temperament. So if you're familiar with it, like Sheldon from Big Bang, some say he's a INTJ or ISTJ. He would not be an ISTJ. He would either be INTJ or ENTP, right? Because I said the NT is the most defining trait, right? So just get the book if you want to learn about temperaments. There's SPs, SJs, NTs, NFs. Those are the four defined temperaments. So they're closer than, say, STs or SFs, right? The way you do the intuitive temperaments is not the way you do the censorship temperaments. And really, you shouldn't be confusing temperaments. Like when you're trying to type someone, you should really not confuse temperaments. Like you might confuse certain temperaments, like maybe ENTJ and ENFJ, but you shouldn't be confusing like an INTP and an ISTP. Like that should never happen. There should be no confusion. Or like an ESTP or an ENTP, that should not happen. Or an ISFJ and an INFJ, that's a bit rare to confuse the two. So if you're confusing, it should be like you confuse an INFJ with an INFP, right? Or an INTP with an INTJ or an ENTP, but not cross temperamental confusion, is what I'm saying. None of this will make sense if you don't understand MBTI, but hopefully it piques your curiosity and you're able to uh, look into it. And the final book is called The Face Reader by, the final book I'll do for this part two is The Face Reader by Patricia McCarthy. And basically, you know how people are able to read other people, right? So obviously, there must be some way that they do this. So the premise of the book is a Chinese practice known as Mian Shang, and it basically tries to say that there are facial characteristics that people have that correspond with their personality, right? So some people have discredited this book or the practice. I think the practice of personality and morphology has been discredited by some. But what I'm basically trying to say is that we know, right? We know that popular people exist, presidents exist, politicians exist, popular people. And when they're in conversations, they're able to read you more easily than others. So clearly, they must be doing this based on either verbal cues and visual cues, right? So, in other words, the way popular people are able to understand others, right? It remains unknown, but this tries to offer an explanation where it's suggesting that people who have high empathy or easily understand others, they must intuitively understand that maybe based on their facial structure, there might be intuitive or innate personality differences between people. And that's why, someone can just look. Have you ever met those people? They can just look at someone and like, hey, that guy looks like, a thief, or maybe he's like, oh, that guy looks like a nerd, or that guy looks like he's into sports. I mean, okay, beyond maybe those are a bit obvious ones, but maybe they'll say he looks like he has a short temper, or he looks like he would do law, or he looks like a kind person, like just physically based on the way the person looks, right? Like people are able to intuit certain things which certain things which to you um you might not know, or you might not see. You're like, wow, how would they know that? So I think this book does a good job. But I'll end part two here and I'll talk more about it in part three, because part three has another book that correlates to this one.